is a historical thing. So in the early 1900s, this group of people started to form and called themselves fundamentalists because they believed in the fundamentals of the faith. Jesus, the Bible, things like that. And then there was this other group of people who believed in the Bible, but they didn't, well, we're not necessarily those people, we're not in that camp. And so, but what happened is those two started to diverge just out of like animosity between each other, and they started to pick things that they did. So for example, one of those sides decided, oh, we're going to like serve the poor, and so the fundamentalists were like, oh, we're not going to serve the poor. Because it used to be the whole church was into, fighting oppression, serving the poor, into justice, things like that. But at that point, to kind of choose sides, you're not going to do what the other side is doing. Other things that the fundamentalists picked up was not drinking, because sometimes these people would drink, not dancing, not gambling, etc. And so that line has kind of continued to today, and you still find it in some pockets really strong. And there can be good reason not to dance if you're like going to a club and like grinding on somebody or whatever, or you're doing a dance and it's like all sexual and it gets you into that like mode. You can see why that could be a thing that wouldn't be helpful for some people to do. So to kind of keep the fundamentalists more pure, they would say, well, don't do that because you don't want to go anywhere close to sin. Do you know what I mean? Let's just keep yourself as pure as possible. Don't drink, because drinking could lead to drunkenness. And so there's all these rules. Gambling could lead to an addiction. So there's all these things that, for good reason, they decide to do that. And like I said a little bit earlier, your convictions, you should do what your conviction tells you. But somebody else may not have that conviction and may be able to say, go dancing and not do it in a way that tempts them into sin. And they can use that for God's glory in whatever way. Do you know what I mean? You could have a lot of rules and that could tempt you into sin because you like the rules more than you follow God. So in the same way, rules can be a bad thing as well, especially when you forget why you're doing them. So if you ever have a tradition, especially a church tradition, you don't know why you're doing it, that could be a bad thing. You want to find out why you're doing it. Otherwise, you're doing it more out of rote sort of things. Every church has traditions. Even Protestants kind of sometimes claim that they don't, but they do. You go to any Protestant church, you're going to see a cross somewhere. That's just a traditional thing. So you go to any Protestant church, you're going to find that those people all will dress similarly. Right? They'll all be like laid back, or they'll all like dress up. You know what I mean? There's going to be things like that that you're going to see in every church will have traditions, but you want to know why it's done. Have you ever been in a church and at a certain point they have you get up and shake hands with your neighbor? Why do we do that?
To meet people?
Huh?
To intermingle and meet people?
Yeah. That's one reason. That's nice. Okay, that's nice. That's not the actual reason we do that.
Because they don't know what to do then.
Yeah, it's still time. And have you ever read if you read the New Testament, it'll say things like greet one another with a holy kiss. Have you ever seen that before?
Yeah.
That's what people used to do. They used to kiss each other, to greet each other during their church services. And boys and men, women would kiss. In Europe, people still do stuff like that, or some countries. But what happens? The boys started getting funny ideas when that was going on. You know what I mean? So then they did you could only kiss your own gender. But then that just kind of got funky. So then it was you can only kiss sometimes the priest's ring or a certain stone or something in the church. And then they're like, that just got too messy. Let's shake hands. That's where that tradition came from. It is an extension of greet one another with a holy kiss. Yeah. That's where it originally came from. And has good reasons, like to get to know each other, to be welcoming to each other. But it came from the Bible, actually. But sometimes we just, don't know where stuff comes from.